what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Ovens Garage. Today I'm going to be working on my wife's beater car. Yeah, that's right, you heard me right. I said beater car because her other car is broken down right now and I'm doing the head gasket job, but her beater car sprung an exhaust leak, and it's a 2006, I think, Hyundai Tucson, front wheel drive, and it's got a bad exhaust leak that just started developing in the past couple weeks, and it's starting to annoy me and all the neighbors. So I ordered an exhaust part and we'll get that exhaust part changed out. Although when the exhaust part showed up, I realized I made a mistake in the part that I ordered, and I didn't realize that there's a difference between the between the exhaust on the Tucson for the front wheel drive versus the all-wheel drive. Here's the exhaust here that I ordered. And the only difference between those two parts is right here. So I saw this little bend and I thought it was the right part, but there's a difference between here and where it bolts up to the exhaust manifold. So on the front wheel drive models, this is a 90 degree, it comes right up. And on the all-wheel drive models, this is the all-wheel drive model, it kind of just goes up to like a 45. So I ordered the wrong exhaust part, but the rest is exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the old exhaust off, and I'll just cut and weld the 90 from the old one onto this one. I've been meaning to buy a welder for a long time, and I finally pulled the trigger. So I got this Prime Weld MIG 180. It's a dual voltage. Got some shielding gas, argon with it, and came with everything I needed pretty much. So I bought a welder. Yay, finally. So now I'll go ahead and rip the exhaust off her car. It's a hot day today. In the garage right now it's 6 degrees, and outside right now it's like 29. There's the Hyundai. It's a 2006. So I'll get it jacked up, put on jack stands, and I'll start ripping the exhaust off. Okay, so I've got the car safely jacked up. I'm using two 6-ton jack stands under the frame rail. So here's the frame rails here on each side. I'm as close as I can get to the front, so that way the pivot point, all the weight of the engine will not bring up the back end of the car. So this is pretty stable, and then I have a jack under there as well, just with a little bit of tension on the frame as a backup safety measure. So if you didn't order the wrong part, this is actually quite a straightforward swap. There's 6 bolts because there's 3 connection points. They're likely going to be rusted out. 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here. You can see that's the 90 I was talking about, and then 2 bolts up at the front. So once you get those off, it's really just a straightforward swap, and the kit comes with new hardware anyways. So the exhaust leak is coming from up there. You can see that front flex joint, and this is the other flex joint. I think it's leaking a little bit as well.
Give it time. I know that I'm not easy. This cold heart of mine, she really took a beating before you. You stuck through blizzards, winter nights with you. Now I'm blooming just for you.
Alright, so here's a quick look at the old exhaust and the new exhaust. You can see where I ordered the wrong part here. Front wheel drive has the 90 degrees that goes up, and the all-wheel drive has like the 45. Otherwise the exhaust is pretty much exactly the same. When I was taking the exhaust off at the front, this flex joint, when I unbolted those two, this just fell apart in 2 pieces. So our exhaust leak was coming from there, and a couple different places around here. There's a couple pinholes in the flex joint. I imagine there's a couple under here too. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the new exhaust, I'm going to dry fit it and kind of see exactly where I need to cut this off the old exhaust and then weld it onto there. Alright, so I was just test fitting the hardware that came with the kit, and I realized I don't think it comes with everything. It's got 3 gaskets, 2 bolts, 2 nuts, and 2 washers. But the problem is, I think, maybe it's different on the other kit, but the 2 bolts are for the front, the 2 nuts go up to the other side of the engine block, after that kind of curved part of the exhaust, and then there should be 2 more nuts for the back that are a little bit bigger than these ones. So these 2 are for the front. I just tried threading them on by hand. What I'm going to do is clean up the threads with a tap and a die, 3/8 16, and then I got to find the right size nuts to go on the existing stud that's to the rear of the car, and I'll clean up those threads as well with a die, just to ensure the smooth the nut goes on smoothly on those 2 studs.
For you, there's nothing I wouldn't do. For you, there's nothing I wouldn't do. For you, there's nothing I wouldn't do. For you, there's nothing I wouldn't do.
Okay, now that I've used the die on these threads, that'll thread on okay on both sides, and then this bolt will thread okay into these threads. I tapped these back holes to M12 by 1.5, so I'm going to go and get 2 M12 by 1.5 nuts for that. I've also gone and taken a chisel and a hammer and got off some of the remaining gasket, because the old gasket was kind of stuck on the surface with some of the rust there. What I'm also going to do before I fully install the system is I'm going to get some gasket maker, high temp exhaust gasket maker from Canadian Tire, and I'll put that on both sides of the gaskets that come with the kit, just to ensure a good seal once I've tightened everything up. At this point, I'm going to dry fit the exhaust and see what I need to do in order to correct my mistake by ordering the wrong exhaust, cutting and welding a little bit of the old system into the new system here. Alright, so I've got the exhaust dry fitted up here, and because of the flex joints, it actually fits quite nicely. I've just got it hanging with a bolt up on this end, and as you can see, the 45 doesn't quite make it here. So I've cut off the 90 from the old piece, and if I kind of hold it roughly same length away, it's gonna work out. I've hold it both ways, kind of this way and that way, and I can see that it'll line up. So I just need to kind of trim this back a little bit, and then I'll probably end up cutting this maybe around here, and then just weld it at that seam. So I need to run to the store to grab a couple of things, those nuts, the gasket maker, and another grinder disc, and we'll get to welding. Alright, so I've got the new piece cut and kind of made it into the old piece. I've got a gap here that's a little bit bigger than I wanted it to be, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack it in a couple spots, and then I'll take the whole thing out and then fill in that gap. I'll make a nice seal around there, and then we'll be good. So I'm gonna tack it a couple spots with the welder and then take it out and weld it all around. Alright, so I've tacked it in 3 spots, and now what I'm gonna do is take the system off, get it into an easier spot to weld, and then weld it completely around solid. Okay, so I've welded the the old elbow to the new exhaust. Got it all welded and sealed up, and at this point I can throw it in the car. I got some high temp RTV gasket maker, and I'll throw that on each side of the gaskets that came with the exhaust, just to make sure there's no leaks, and we'll get it all bolted in right now. Alright, so the new exhaust is all bolted up. Got everything tightened down. I just made it all pretty tight without stripping the bolts or nuts, obviously. I've got the new system fully installed, so I'm going to let that RTV cure overnight, and then we'll drive it tomorrow. And I guess we can consider this done as long as there's no leaks. I just gotta fix this splash shield, and I'll take everything off the jack stands and let it sit overnight before we start it up and close out this video. Okay, this is the first startup after the exhaust leak repair. Alright, thanks for watching. Hopefully that helps you if you're trying to fix an exhaust leak on your Hyundai Tucson. This is a 2006 V6. Cheers.